The mess hall was empty, except for the sound of steel against skin and potato peels falling like autumn leaves onto the aluminum tray. Maria Santos had been peeling potatoes for 3 hours straight, her calloused hands moving with mechanical precision while her mind wandered to places she tried not to go. The fluorescent lights hummed above her, casting harsh shadows across her weathered face, each line telling a story of battles fought in silence. She wore no uniform, no rank, and no recognition. Just the same gray apron she'd worn for 7 months, stained with grease and the sweat of invisible service. To most, she was just another kitchen worker, another face in the sea of support staff that kept the military machine running. But Maria Santos carried secrets that would make grown soldiers weep. 23 years ago, she had been Staff Sergeant Maria Santos, leading a reconnaissance unit through the mountains of Afghanistan. Her voice had commanded respect, her decisions had saved lives, and her courage had earned her 3 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star. She had been invincible, untouchable, a warrior in every sense of the word. Until the day everything changed. The IED had taken more than just her left leg below the knee. It had taken her identity, her purpose, and her place in the only world she had ever known. The medical discharge came with honors, with gratitude, and with empty promises of support that evaporated like morning mist. The VA appointments became a maze of bureaucracy. The disability checks barely covered rent. And the nightmares, they never stopped coming. So here she was, peeling potatoes in the same mess hall where she once sat as a decorated veteran, now invisible to the young soldiers who walked past her station without a second glance. The irony wasn't lost on her. Serving those who served, forgotten by the very institution she had bled for. Her prosthetic leg ached after standing for hours, but she never complained. Complaining was for those who had options, and Maria had learned long ago that pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. Each potato she peeled was a small act of defiance against a world that had discarded her. Each perfect curl of skin falling away was proof that she still had value, still had purpose, even if no one else could see it. The kitchen supervisor barely acknowledged her existence. To him, she was just another pair of hands, reliable and cheap. He didn't know about the metals gathering dust in her studio apartment, didn't know about the 27 soldiers whose lives she had saved during her service, and didn't know about the shrapnel still embedded in her spine that made every movement a quiet act of courage. Maria had stopped expecting recognition years ago. She had stopped waiting for thank you letters or ceremony invitations. She had stopped hoping that anyone would see past the limp, past the minimum wage job, past the invisible wounds that never healed. All she had left was the work, the rhythm of blade against potato, and the simple satisfaction of doing something useful with hands that once held rifles and now held vegetable peelers. The mess hall door swung open with its familiar creak, and Maria didn't look up. More hungry soldiers, more mouths to feed, more people who would never know her name or her story. She kept peeling, kept her head down, and kept disappearing into the background where broken veterans go to fade away. But then the footsteps stopped. Not the usual rush past her station, not the hurried pace of soldiers grabbing trays and moving on. These footsteps stopped directly in front of her, boots planted firmly on the linoleum floor with the weight of authority and purpose. Colonel James Mitchell had been walking through the mess hall when something caught his eye. Not something. Someone. The way this woman held herself, even hunched over potatoes, spoke of military bearing. The precise movements, the economy of motion, the unconscious discipline that never truly leaves a soldier's body. He studied her weathered hands, noticed the small scar on her knuckle that looked suspiciously like shrapnel damage, and saw the way she favored her left side in a manner that spoke of old wounds and adaptations. His eyes moved to her face, and something clicked in his memory. He had seen that face before, not here in this kitchen, but in a photograph on his office wall. A photograph of heroes, of the few, of those who had earned their place in the brotherhood of warriors through blood and sacrifice. Staff Sergeant Maria Santos, Bravo Company, 3rd Battalion. The woman who had single-handedly held off an enemy assault while her wounded comrades evacuated. The soldier who had earned more respect in one tour than most earned in an entire career. And here she was, peeling potatoes, forgotten by the very system she had served with distinction. Colonel Mitchell felt something break inside his chest. A fracture in his understanding of how the world worked, how justice was supposed to function, and how heroes were supposed to be treated. This wasn't right. This wasn't how the story was supposed to end for someone like Maria Santos. This was a failure of the highest order, a betrayal of the promise made to those who serve. Maria sensed the presence before she looked up. Years of combat had given her an awareness that never fully switched off, and she could feel someone watching her with an intensity that made her skins prickle. She raised her eyes slowly, expecting to see another impatient soldier waiting for service, but instead found herself looking into the face of a full-bird colonel whose expression was unlike anything she had seen in years. There was recognition there and respect, and something that looked suspiciously like awe. Colonel Mitchell's hand moved slowly to his temple, and Maria's breath caught in her throat as she realized what was happening. This man, this officer, was preparing to salute her. Not the kitchen worker, not the invisible woman in the stained apron, but her, the soldier she used to be, the warrior she still was deep down beneath the layers of disappointment and neglect. The salute came crisp and perfect, a gesture of respect from one soldier to another, from one who understood sacrifice to one who had embodied it. In that moment, the mess hall seemed to fade away. The humming lights went silent, and all that existed was the acknowledgement that had been absent for so many years. Maria's own hand moved instinctively to return the salute, muscle memory overriding the shock that threatened to overwhelm her. Her spine straightened, her shoulders squared, and for just a moment, Staff Sergeant Maria Santos stood at attention once again. Every inch the decorated veteran she had always been and would always be, regardless of where life had taken her. Other soldiers in the mess hall began to notice, conversations dying as heads turned to witness something extraordinary happening at the potato station. Word spread like wildfire through the base, carried by soldiers who understood the weight of what they had witnessed. Within hours, Maria's story was being told in barracks and offices. Her service record was being pulled from archives, and questions were being asked about how a decorated veteran had ended up peeling potatoes in anonymity. But in that singular moment, none of that mattered. All that mattered was the recognition, the respect, and the simple acknowledgement that she was seen, that she was valued, and that she was still a soldier worthy of honor. The tears that fell mixed with potato peels on the aluminum tray, each drop carrying years of pain and isolation and forgotten dreams. Colonel Mitchell lowered his salute, but didn't move away. Instead, he spoke words that would echo in Maria's heart forever after. Words that restored something she thought was lost forever. Words that reminded her who she really was beneath the scars and the struggles and the invisible wounds that never fully heal. Sometimes, the greatest battles are fought not on foreign soil, but in the quiet moments when we choose to see the heroes hiding in plain sight among